Well, welcome to Conscious Conversations. We are so glad to have you here with us on today. It's been a while, and guess what, family? We are back here live and in living color to inspire, to educate, to inform, to reconnect, and to make sure that we are having conversations that matter. And so we are so glad to have you here with us on today. Now, family, today is a very special day for me. I'm excited. I'm elated and I'm expecting a great conversation today. I am mind blown. I am amazed to have today's guest in the person of the phenomenal, the magnanimous, the magnificent Marzella Tyson. We call her Zella, and I promise you, you are going to be blessed by her presence on today. Now, family, today's show is entitled Lifting Forgotten Voices. And of course, we have seen a whole lot happen in the past few months with the administration changes and how things are shifting and moving in our culture and our environment. And one of the things I want us to lift up and discuss on today is to really highlight those voices that are being forgotten, those voices who are being impacted, those lives that are being impacted we often don't talk about. And so today we're going to have that conversation, and I promise you will be inspired, you'll be compelled, you'll be moved by compassion to hear the stories of those lives being impacted. And also, but not just that, the transformational work that's going on behind the scenes that you may not know about. There is a great thing moving. And when I say moving, I mean literally moving. It's called Meals on Wheels of Collin County. Again, it's a movement happening right now in live and living color to make sure that forgotten voices, our seniors, our disabled, those who are disconnected and disenfranchised are receiving meals, love, compassion every single day. And family, I want to highlight them today as we begin our series on lifting forgotten voices. And family, I promise today you will be forever changed. So right now, I want to pause and I want to introduce to you the CEO, ED of Mills and Wheels of Collin County. And she is a phenomenal leader. She is a CEO. She's an ED. She's educated. And guess what, family? She's a sister. She is gifted. She's talented. I promise you, you'll be mind blown. So I'm going to pause now. I'm going to be quiet. And I'm going to bring to the stage the person of Zoe Tyson, the CEO of Meals on Wheels, Collin County Family. Give her some applause. Let her know you love her so much for being here on today. Miss Zoe Tyson, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Pastor D, for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. You know, I often say that Meals on Wheels is just, it's not about the meals, and it's about meeting people at their most vulnerable moments with dignity. I was drawn to this word because I believe every senior in our community has a voice, and that voice is worth hearing and a story worth honoring. So you see, in Collin County, we serve thousands, and not only with food, but with compassion. And we serve them with consistency, and we also serve with connection. But as the needs arise, as we all know right now, that so do our call. Our call is arising too. And
Yes.
we have to respond with creativity and urgency, and most of all, with love.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
love it. I love it. Thank you so much. You came out the gate strong. And so, look, y'all watching, y'all heard already. So I don't know what else left to say. But I want to go ahead and make sure that we kind of highlight, for the world and let them know who you are. And so, Ms. Ella, share a bit about yourself and what brought you to this life transformational work.
Well, Pastor D, my background, I came from a very humble background, Southern girl, and my background is in public health and nonprofit leadership. But my passion was to see community transformation and equity for all. I had a passion for health disparities and wanting to see that everyone had a voice. And this came as a child when I was younger. My mother, who was always ill at that time, being able to have access to services and being in a community where we lived in a southern, on a farm, the resources were very limited and education was very important. So my personal story is is very much, I'm driven by what has happened to me as a young child and made me who I am today. Just having coming from a single mom and three boys, my tenacity and my faith in God has truly given me that passion. But I've always believed that leadership means lifting others, and Mills and Wills really gave me the platform to do just that.
Oh wow, that's an amazing story. And so one of the things that I always find interesting is that people who work in nonprofit space always have a story tied to how they landed there. I think a lot of people, myself included, uh, did not plan to be in the nonprofit space. Right? We had these lofty goals of I know me personally. I was going to law school. I want to do this, and and something but something happens. Of course, we know calling happens and you kind of get pulled into some spaces. But not just a calling, but it's kind of hard to run from compassion, right? When
Mhm.
you're when you have a heart for creation, when you have a heart for people, when you have a heart to see things happen and see transformation happen in a real way, it's kind of hard to run from that. So I love hearing the stories of how our hearts get pulled into spaces where we never thought we'd be. And so that sounds like your story.
Yes, absolutely. I had a strong ministry background as a younger child because the church was my safe place. It was my safe haven, and everything I learned in life and my struggles and adversity and how to deal with that came from ministry, from in that background. And so, one of the things that was most important to me was what is my purpose? How am I going to use what I know and what I've learned in ministry, apply this in my life, but also share with others? How do I make a difference in life? And this is something I would look for opportunities for that. So when I took to the higher education and I decided to look at areas that would help support that. But I really wanted, and overall, I just wanted to be a basic person where I love bugs. I love being able to, I'm a very earthy person. I'm a very hippie type of person, very earthy person. I have a whole different persona. But I'm very focused on just social justice and making sure that everyone has opportunity and to be able to have that voice. And so I saw that in ministry, and I wanted to be able to find a place in my continuing education to do this. But at the back of it, I was going to focus on other areas. I loved photography. I love art. I love all those types of things. But being a in the musical arena, my family they were all musicians, and I was surrounded by so much music. How was I going to use this? And so I just took everything that I knew, and I saw nonprofit leadership opportunities. I wasn't planning on going to leadership opportunities. I want to stay in the grassroots area, and it was just a place that God drew me. I ended up, and if it was for me to be in those positions, and then I knew that I would. For so long, I was always second, and I believed that I was that always an assistant or someone that was a associate director or second person in command, and I accepted that that's what I was supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, these positions started to change. I learned what I needed to know, and I became equipped with everything that I needed to know so God could promote me to the next area of leadership. And I ended up in a place that I could make the most impact with the least amount of resources through creativity and God's grace. That's where I ended up.
I have learned some new things today. I had no idea you were Earth Child. I had no idea. I learned today. But now we cannot gloss past this because she did mention that she was singing. She grew up in a family of musicians. Now she kind of tried to fly by that real fast. But we caught that. We caught that. We caught that. Um, so that is an amazing story, and I love how Once you start kind of, sharing your story, your compassion starts to kind of show up even more, right? And one of the things that I think we oftentimes don't connect is the fact that ministry shows up not just within the doors of a church, but it shows up in what happens more so outside the building. And, real ministry. And so when you talk about, having a background in ministry, and being in the role you're in now, that doesn't stop; it expands. And so, that's a connection point between, is not just discussing our faith; is living our faith.
Yes.
How we, in a real sense, really, show up for people who actually need, who need to see love, not hear about love, but need to see love. And what better way to see and experience love through having a meal, having, food to eat, to having substance provided, to having, again, and we'll share more later. I want to hear more about, again, being more than a meal, right? How we do experience, human compassion by showing up and combating isolation, and all that. So I'm going to go too far. So let me back up. Help us learn more about Meals on Wheels of Collin County. Now, I know, like, some people may have a misconception, but what all does Meals on Wheels do? I mean, educate us. I mean, let the people know who it is, what it does, and why it's important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Pastor D, Meals on Wells, Collin County started by faith, a small group of faith individuals who saw a need within a community and decided to take action upon it. They started off with 100 meals, just basically going to some people that were in need, they were hungry because of limited resources, and more than likely never knew that it would grow to this capacity. And as we know, meals are important because when you have a meal and you sit down, you have a time of fellowship. There's a time that great things happen at that time. Great decisions are made. People, trust is built and good conversations are had. But people don't know you care until they know how much you care, until you actually take action. And ministry was their focus. Those founders passed that on, and this organization, 100 meals in 1970s to almost, we're 600,000 targeted now, in the new fiscal year coming up, 600,000 meals annually. So millions of meals have been put out since the 70s through this organization. It's grown from a small nonprofit to a medium size, headed to a larger nonprofit. And we are at a point where we are serving up to 2,000 meals a day, up to 2,000 meals a day. And we are making sure that emergency meals are delivered. Coming out of the pandemic has been a wonderful learning experience because we have become also first responders with our first responders, and thousands and thousands of meals was delivered during the COVID time. I'm very proud of that because our organization continued to serve our seniors, brought in those seniors that were in our senior center and brought them in and transitioned them to our homebound program and continue to serve throughout almost 3 years. Um, our deliveries, we have medically tailored meals that we're trying out this year, renal meals that we're getting ready to provide. It's something new that we're doing. And we could not do this without volunteers. It is a volunteer driven organization. We have a group of highly qualified, highly skilled team members, the cream of the crop in every department, in our operations, fundraising, in every area. But we have the ambassadors of the organization, and they are our volunteers. And these volunteers deliver on a daily basis throughout Collin County. We target Collin County, and there are thousands of Meals on Wheels across the country, but we take most pride in Collin County because we're able to continue to provide 80% of what comes into our organization goes directly into the mouths of the seniors, and it takes and 20% to operate it. So our numbers, actually, the impact is what I'm most proud of, because in our services that we provide, nonprofits tend to get the rap about not having impact. We are a mission driven organization, but we are also an impact driven organization. We can't do mission without having impact. So we know that we put out almost 20,000 emergency meals within this last year, but we also serve 26 cities. And we have noticed that we have a significant increase in high risk seniors, and we're able to accommodate those seniors too in the rural area. But 96% of our seniors, they remain in their homes and their families and in their community. So our overall mission to combat hunger and senior isolation and keep seniors independent in their homes and in their communities is actually being fulfilled. 64% of the people that we serve actually do not go into emergency rooms after they get in our program.
Hmm. That I mean, right there, I want to make sure that everybody catches that, right? And the fact that, I mean, the numbers you just dropped are phenomenal. I mean, about what 2,000 meals a day, um, you know, which is and then seniors who receive this support. Uh, I think you said how many stay out of the ERs. I mean, so there's health impact, there's compassion impact, there's presence impact. I mean, so this is really a life impact. I can't call it an organization; it's an organism because it's
Yes.
actually it's embodying so many different faculties of change. And it's really helping people to live and be humanely cared for.
Mhm.
And so I mean, just to hear that, people. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, I'm just, I have chills down my spine right now just thinking about the fact that there's somebody right now who's sitting at home, and gets to get a meal, gets cared for, and we're helping them to stay healthy, right? Who doesn't want to be a part of that? Like, as a matter of fact, I think there's somewhere, and I don't want to be too churchy, but somewhere in Matthew where I could be wrong, but it says somewhere, when I was hungry, did you feed me?
Wow.
And so I mean, I believe it's in the text, and so I think it's a question that we should all be responding to, a challenge that how are we caring for our neighbors, how are we caring for our seniors, and how are we making sure that these forgotten voices are not neglected, but we're caring for them. And
Mm.
so those stats are amazing, they're phenomenal. We got to run that back because that's amazing. So here is a question that I know people who are watching, they're wondering, and there was so much noise that was going on in the media, and especially around the time the change in the administration. And of course, when the news hit that there was things happening to funding in our environment. Um, there was a moment where it was on several news stations that Meals on Wheels is going to lose funding. You know, um, there was kind of a stir in the environment. There was no concern. There was worry. Help us understand what happened, and what has been the impact to Meals on Wheels, Collin County in particular. What kind of let's educate us on the reality of what happened, and kind of where we are today.
Thank you, Pastor D. Unfortunately, some of the tax cuts and the deregulation has impacted certain programs like Medicaid and SNAP, and some of the programs that are around that are housing programs. And so while higher seniors benefit from the temporary deductions, and a lot of the low income, moderate income seniors, um, they're at risk. They have higher health care and food costs and reduced coverage. that's what's happening to them. But when we received our first reduction, it had a lot to do with because there were so many changes within the federal government. There were a great deal of administrative personnel being laid off, and so it put delays upon programs like the Old Americans Act and getting funding out in a timely manner. So those delays meant that we would not receive funding on time, so that Meals on Wheels would have to carry that burden. So those Meals on Wheels across the country had to carry that burden in addition to reductions. And those reductions meant that priorities had to be in place so that some of the programs that impacted the seniors, they would not be funded any higher. They would have to stay at flat rate and would not be getting any additional funding. After we came out of COVID, there was a great deal of seniors that joined Meals on Wheels during COVID, and those seniors had to rotate off at that time because funding changed, and we no longer had that COVID funding, and so we had to still continue to take care of those seniors, and we saw a greater need more than ever before, and we're not able to just push them off. There are certain areas you will hear that Old Americans Act is not impacted. However, I want the public to know that there are ancillary services that will impact our seniors tremendously. And the number one area that you can look at, in addition to food, is you want to look at the Medicare and Medicaid changes. Many of our seniors need medicines, drug negotiations. That's going to impact our seniors' availability, our ability to be able to access needed drugs, because there's some negotiations going to happen with the drug community, and that's going to impact their ability to get the drugs that they need, because those drugs won't be available. And in return, you're going to see a higher number of seniors who are at risk, who are going to be sicker, who are going to be coming to the churches, who are going to be coming to Meals on Wheels, who need help, and they're going to be sicker. But and we already see that increase with Meals on Wheels. We see a higher number, a percentage of seniors increasing on our in our enrollment, and we were wondering why this was happening. So our seniors are being impacted in that way. Also, those seniors who get sick and not able to continue to be able to take care of themselves need that long-term care. So there were changes that's proposed in long-term care, not being able to have the necessary aftercare afterwards, and having those caregivers come to be able to Medicare, Medicaid to pay for the caregivers to be able to help our seniors who are not who are homebound. These are the people that we're seeing behind the closed doors. Once again, the church will experience this, and there will be an increase in those seniors. However, there's an increase in the number in terms of age, retirement age that we're looking at. So there may be a change in that retirement age. However, if you're wanting seniors to retire a little bit later, you want them to be healthy. So you're going to see more seniors showing up where they're not as healthy, but they need to be able to go back to work to be able to get the benefits that we need. So the ancillary services around our programs, for instance, the community development block grant. We receive about $100,000 community development block grant, but that is something that our cities receive, and that helps fund senior home repairs and fix roads, and many of the cities have given to Meals on Wheels through their community development block grant. And should that go away, and that's being proposed to go away, be eliminated or reduced, that's going to put pressure on the cities to be able to prioritize. And our programs, you will not see that funding coming into Meals on, which is much needed, and it's a way our seniors were supported through the cities. And that means that we will need to carry that cost. There's some other things that we want to make sure that we look at. Their housing, the increase. For instance, many states are revising or eliminating their property tax relief program. for seniors due to budget shortfalls. So that means that lowering that tax obligation to those seniors that are disabled, or if they don't have that opportunity, they weren't able to pay taxes, they didn't have to pay taxes before. And if that eliminates that, and they're disabled, then they're going to have to be able to pay taxes. And That's used to have that homestead exemption, and that will change. So there's a number of ancillary programs around our seniors, and that's something that we need to monitor, because it will be what you call a domino effect. And so even though we hear that the Old Americans Act, which is where we carry our food, where the seniors get their food and their support, there is still the risk of losing the holistic support that seniors need to be able to live on a day-to-day basis, which you will see numbers increase for Meals on Wheels and many nonprofits across the country.
Wow, wow. So I guess a lot of times we don't think about how one thing can affect the other, right?
Mhm.
And it shows how all this is interconnected. If funding is impacted, on one end, if a tax exemption goes away, well, that means that's less money that someone has to spend on food, and so they're going to have they still have to eat. Or if there's funding cut somewhere else, and they have to spend more on medication or other support services, guess what? Their food budget is impacted. So
Mhm.
a lot of times, when we are thinking about, having a conversation around how all these pieces are interconnected. And these are our seniors who have worked, who have given,
Yes.
who have been faithful members of society, who have paid taxes, who have raised families, who are many are veterans, many who have given their lives to service and are looking for someone to do for them what they've done for others in their life. And now it's almost like the rug is being pulled from under them. Okay, so the very thing that they've been told and promised would be there in their golden years, right?
Yes.
Is now being questioned and challenged. And so we oftentimes don't recognize and think about how policy affects everything.
Hmm.
Policy shows up in so many ways, and sometimes policy can be violent in that how it affects people and how they live and how they survive. And
Hmm.
so, and violence again just isn't physicality, but it's anything that can impact us negatively. And so they're feeling the impact of this shift. And so, you know, I think we got to really make sure that we keep raising that conversation and let people know that, again, elections have consequences, policy has consequences, engagement or disengagement has consequences. And so we have to make sure that those of us who live in compassion, who live in care, who live in concern, recognize the impact that's really happening in real time. And right there at Mills and Wheels, Collin County, you're seeing it in real time where people are having to decide: do I eat or do I pay this bill? Do I eat or do I pay my taxes? Do I eat or
Hmm.
or invest in a home repair? I don't think that food should ever be a negotiating point. I think that is the one thing that we should. Food and healthcare should not be negotiating points. That's a human right uh,
Yes.
that I think we all need to be make sure that we. So again, I applaud you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. All of us, make sure that we can serve those who are in need. So given the strange space that we're in, right, we're seeing cuts and shifts and all this stuff happen. Um, how is Mills and Woods Collin County poised to respond to the needs that are emerging? What's the plan of action? How do you plan to respond?
Yes, thank you so much, Pastor D. You described everything to a T. What I really appreciate most about what you described was the choice that seniors will have to make. There's a choice that's roaming the country right now. There are choices between basic needs and choices between where will I live? Do I go back to live with my family? Choices are all that's the narrative that's happening across the country right now. That number one word, choice. And one of the things that we are proud of. We have been working on this since the pandemic. We've become very strong, and we have what you call Operation Safety First. We've expanded our Operation Safety First and included our not only our staff but community members to be able to help us with emergency preparedness. We have over 500 corporations with us to be able to help us with our emergency preparedness program. Should there be any other types of emergencies that happen with our seniors, we're going to continue to be there. Now we're looking at basic emergencies that deal with seniors from a different point as opposed to natural disasters. There are other types of emergencies. So we have additional food boxes that are being constantly throughout the year that's being collected throughout the year for our seniors. And then on the weekends, we deliver those food boxes. But what makes you Meals on Wheels unique from other programs is that we're not a band-aid approach. We're transformational because our goal when we get to the houses is to provide what you call a well check. We not only provide food, you can provide food, but if a person is having issues in those areas of challenges, those financial challenges, or they can't get their medicine, or they have an infection, they're not going to eat. If they're depressed or isolated, they're not going to eat. So we have increased our well check points through, we expanded them. And so we're doing more well checks. We're expanding our technology so our seniors can have technology. There is a time where seniors will be asked to fill out more paperwork online, and they will also be expected to deal with issues around fraud and things that come up that they're going to need support from a technology point. And we're working with our younger generation through our generation program called Silver Surfers, that we're going to work with the colleges and our high school students to be able to help our seniors with technology, to help them understand and learn that. Our focus is not to have a waiting list. Should we have a waiting list, it will be a list that we will continue to be able to help our seniors. We'll know who those seniors are, but our focus is to be able to target the high risk areas. So we're going to see more of MOWs targeting strategies in the high risk areas with the highest need, higher food insecurity areas. So you'll see us targeting our food and our efforts and our staple meal. We want to make sure that everyone gets a meal. If we reduce the meals that are coming in, everyone will still get a meal, so we don't have a waiting list. We're going to be increasing not only our the our models are more innovative now when it comes to our technology, because our communication in this point, we learned from COVID that communication is key. So the feedback from our seniors, we're going to keep a pulse. We want to be the face, not only in Collin County, but throughout this country, that will be able to give the feedback and the voice to the seniors. So whatever is going on behind the closed doors, our volunteers will know and be able to report back to our organization, and our seniors will be able to report to Meals on Wheels what's actually happening with them and the struggles that they're having, and we'll be able to provide the resources that we need to be able to help. We are mobilizing every ounce of connection within the county. Community engagement is key to the success of a nonprofit. So we are raising our outreach efforts and engagement efforts with our corporations and businesses to adopt seniors. Adopting seniors, we've added this program because when funding leaves, we do not want to depend on government funding, as it's temperamental and we appreciate it, but we want our seniors to have a stable and be able to have a reliable support network through our organization. For years, we've been there, but we want to make sure that they don't lose the well checks and they don't lose the food, but also the connection. The part that Meals on Wheels is so great at, in addition to food, is combating isolation. So we want to do this with our corporations, but we also want to make sure that every corporation, every business, every church, every individual have an opportunity to adopt a senior and be able to connect with that senior, help support their meals, but also help be able to provide well checks. This is the time for our faith community to rise and shine because they know how to do it better than anyone.
I want to pause there for a minute. We kind of unpack for us and kind of share more, about the well checks and and how Meals of Collin County is more than a meal. I don't think people understand that and get that, and I think that's again a unique message. I think we need to amplify more. We kind of share more about what a well check is, and its impact.
Yes. Did you say share more about the well checks and their impact?
Hmm.
Absolutely. Isolation is very similar to if you smoked every day, isolation is very similar to that in uh, the health impact on a senior if or someone that smokes every day is equivalent to someone who is dealing with isolation every day. So it impacts them mentally, it impacts them physically, if they are it impacts them psychologically. I mentioned mentally, but from the point of having being diagnosed with depression, it's in our faith community, they use the word oppression. They feel oppressed, they feel that they can't, they're stuck in their situation, they don't want to be a burden. And when you get a senior to that point and you encounter that behind the door, the food is not the priority at that point. It is it's the connection, the human connection. We are all created in God's image, but we're also created to connect with each other. This is where that senior has not been connected. It is the result of not being connected to human interaction. And yet you're getting the food. You can drop food off. You can go to a bank and pick up a food. You can do a band aid approach, but the connection, the human connection, is what keeps us alive and what keeps us going and helps us return back to a livelihood that we need to be there with our grandchildren, to be there with our children, with our families. So, this connection, Meals on Wheels' mission is to combat isolation. And that is the part of the mission that most people don't know about. When we talk about more than a meal, you'll hear that cliche, more than a meal. That is what that is. We are more than a meal, and that's the focus. Well checks, it seems like a pretty easy thing to do, to go to someone's house, but when you show up as an ambassador or a volunteer at a senior's house and they are experiencing isolation, the change in their psychological, their behavior, the change in their mood, the change in their spirit changes, and the smile. Not only is it so, it changes them, it changes them from a health point, it because it's something that impacts them holistically. That you took the time out of your day, that you showed up, and that you care for them. And they usually take the food, but they look at you because you want to be there and you want to be with them. As the aging process can be pretty hard on our seniors, or the aging process affects everyone. But and one of the number one things about the aging process is we all want to know that you want to be, we're included, that you want to be with us, that we are important, that we have purpose. Our organization lets seniors know they still have purpose. And so does the faith community. We let them know you still have purpose.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so with that, again, I want to also make sure because if I understand right, I mean, Mills and Wills, you know, not only do you deliver food, do you do well check when you're delivering food, but you have a staff of trained professionals who we kind of share a bit about, again, you know, those who work in social services. And I mean, kind of share, I want people to get a good picture of what's happening right here. So share a bit about your staff and, your trained professionals, kind of how things roll.
Absolutely. We have in our operations, we have a staff. We hire the most highly skilled, highly qualified staff, or the highly experienced staff. And so we have a licensed dietitian on board with us. We want to make sure our meals are not, these meals are nutritionally, they're beneficial and they're healthy. These are not just meals, or this is not just food that's going out just for the sake of just getting a box of food survival. These meals help to heal you and help you to be maintain your health. So having a licensed dietitian not only does that, but it helps us to be able to have the ability to change our meal menu as we need in a moment's notice. So we have the ability to respond in an emergency situation or financial situation. Sometimes in your household, if your money has changed, then you need to be able to change your meal, but you also want to keep a healthy meal. And that's simple as that. We want to make sure that we have the ability to be able to change that meal, but keep it diagnosed as being as being a healthy meal that is not high in salt, but low in salt and protein, and making sure we have good protein and all the nutrients that they need in that plate of food that we're giving them. We also have licensed social workers, and we have a combination of social workers that have experience in mental health. We have combinations of social workers and backgrounds. There are people that have come and wanted to apply for positions with MBAs. And these positions, we've diversified the social workers where they're able to be able to go out and do home visits. And in addition to the daily visits, they capture the information that is found when you make that visit. For instance, if you have a volunteer from a church or you have a volunteer that becomes an ambassador with our organization, that information goes back to these highly qualified individuals, and they focus on getting the services that they need, and they respond within the same day to be able to get them the help that they need. We have experienced drivers that come from either the transportation industry, that have many of them come out of delivering for other companies or organization, and these individuals are trained to be able in customer service. They're trained in being able to deliver in and the most in terms of weather, or in they're trained to be able to get the meal to the senior within a designated amount of time, and to be able to support those meals as needed. Should they not have enough food, they're able to get back and get that senior food within that allotted period of time. We have trained professionals that are at the front when you're answering the phone, to care coordination, train fundraisers to make sure we have the best qualified fundraisers, so we can have sustainability. So not only do you become a fundraiser where you're getting money, but you also have a mentality, a mindset of being able to have a sustainability, being able to articulate how we're going to sustain, what your ideas are about sustaining, and how you're going to do this when you come on board. Each taking areas of our revenue and taking that and making it their own, and making sure that we get the funding that we need in creative and innovative ways to be able to meet the budgets that we do. We have congregate sites where people don't know we have congregate sites. They're called congregate sites because our seniors congregate at them. And we have about 6 of those across the county. And we have staff that is paid staff at those congregate sites that are serving those seniors with backgrounds in areas with special needs, and coming from teacher background, all types of backgrounds that we have that are going into those daily meal prep areas to be able to make sure the seniors have not only the food, but the activities they need, partnering with the senior centers and with those cities to be able to come out of being homebound, to be no longer isolated, but be able to enjoy being around other seniors as well.
Wow, wow, wow. That is. Wait a minute. So Meals on Wheels of Collin County is a well-oiled machine. I mean, that is. I mean, that is. Wow. Again, if you're listening, if you're watching, I promise you, do make sure. Make sure. Matter of fact, while you're at it, while you're listening and while you're watching, go ahead and grab your phone, your iPad, your laptop. If you're Android, get your Android, whatever you got, and make sure that you go to Meals on Wheels, CollinCounty.org, and make sure that you check it out. Actually, Meals on Wheels, CC.org, to make sure I'm right. Meals on Wheels, CC.org. Do your research, read and see about the programming, the activities, the impact, the support, and again, and how you can volunteer. Explore and look and see if you're in Collin County, if you're in the area adjacent. Hey, go to the website, look and see how, because again, it takes a village, all of us, to show up, show out, and make sure that we lift forgotten voices. So if you can't give $1, give your time. If you can't give your time, give some. Let's make sure we find a way to connect, in a very real way. So again, Meals on Wheels, cc.org. Go there today, read it, look at it, support it. Tell your mom and them, your cousin them, your friends and them, your uncle and them, and say, hey, look, we have got to connect with this organization. Now, so I want to shift a bit. So how can we, those of us who are watching, again, this will be heard on several podcast platforms. It'll be seen on several platforms. And so how can those of us who are watching and hearing this, how can we best support Meals on Wheels?
Well, I would like to see, first of all, that they're listening, who are listening to this right now, that you would go on to the website immediately to learn as much as you can about the options. We have more options. It's so easy to give your time, your talent, and your treasure. We can easily say, hey, we need your money, your sustainability in order to continue that. We do. One of the things that's happening with our organization, and Pastor D mentioned, just how we're responding to the needs. Well, we have to have the capacity to serve. We're getting ready to build a new building where we are. And if you would like to be involved with the capacity to serve within this county, it's very easy to do. When you go online, you will see there are opportunities to be able to contribute to an endowment and sustainability if you want to do that, and you have a legacy that you're leaving there for sustainability for your as you age, as others age in your family. You have an opportunity to be able to, for plan giving right now, holding on to money is important right now for everyone. So there are opportunities to do this where you can still save and have and invest into a senior's life through your plan giving, your IRA. There's opportunities, even with the tax cuts, to be able to do things where it's not going to hurt your pocket. Go onto our website and do this. Volunteering it also gives back from an in-kind point. These are dollars that we can be able to use to leverage additional dollars. So if you are volunteering your time, not only will you help the seniors, but you will bring in other friends, other families. We will bring in people across the county to know more about our organization, but also be able to give us the manpower that we would normally have to purchase. You will be able to give it to us from an in-kind point where we can continue to put more food back in the seniors' mouths. So volunteer, it's easy to do this. It's one of the number one organizations where we can accept over 100 volunteers to volunteer at a time. You can take a number, a high volume number of volunteers to be able to do this. So giving at this time where it doesn't hurt your pocket is very easy to do with this organization. It's a miracle that everybody's waiting for. It doesn't have to be where you think it may be a small miracle. I don't have much to give. Your time, your talent, we need your skills. We embrace any skills that you have when you in your businesses or that you've got. Just your time, your talent, your treasure, whether it's your wallet or your willingness. We just can't do it without you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, wow. So yeah, so right there, if you're listening on any of our platforms, I want you to make sure you go to Meals on Wheels, cc.org right now. Read about the organization. If you're local, consider plugging in to volunteer, but also let's tap into our compassion and consider giving a gift and connecting to help support the work that we do at Meals on Wheels of Collin County. Now, also, if you're watching, look right here on the screen right now. You can see ways to support Meals on Wheels, and it says become a hero of hope. Now, who doesn't want to be a hero? So look, if you want to be a hero, let's save somebody. Let a forgotten voice and go ahead and connect and give right now. Matter of fact, I'm gonna issue a challenge. If you are listening, if you're watching, grab your cell phone right now, and I want you to text a gift to Meals on Wheels right now. Dial 972-460-0443. Make a contribution right now to Meals in Wheels Collin County. Give the best gift you got. I promise you, it will change your life. Again, 972-440-0443. Give that gift right now. Text your gift. Again, if you're listening, if you're watching, if you watch it later, if you share with your cousins, say, hey, look, I challenge. Matter of fact, do a challenge amongst your family and see who can give the most to help feed. Again, here it is. You're feeding a senior, a forgotten voice, someone who is disabled, someone who is, again, think about Big Mama now, Grandmama now, your auntie, your abuela. I mean,
Mhm.
and just think about them and give the best gift right now. But also, you can adopt a senior. You can go ahead and plug in. If you are a corporation, if you own a business, again, you give to your business. Commit to be a monthly donor, be a volunteer, adopt a root. I mean, there are ways that's right here on the screen. Again, and now for those of you all who are the big ball shot callers and got some gift to give, you can be a legacy and giving donor and give long term where it will outlive not just your present day, but the future to come. So let's go ahead and give right now and make a difference. Again, sponsor an event or a fundraiser, family. There are so many ways where you can connect and plug in. And so I challenge you, if you're watching, listening, go ahead and make sure that you become your own hero. Forget Marvel, forget Captain America. You become a hero. Become Captain Collin County to make sure that you can serve and make a difference in a real way right here. That's my challenge to all of us right here at Conscious Conversations. Let's have a conversation and make a difference in a real way. Because I promise you, if we can feed someone, we are sharing love in a real way. I mean, so
Yes.
give now is right there on the screen. Also, there's a QR code. Pause it, grab your phone, and give to the QR code. You have no excuse. We got options. Make it happen and give right now. Well, Ms. Ella, thank you for sharing about, Ms. Collin County. I loved hearing your story. I loved hearing the impact. I loved hearing everything about the organization. But right now, at this segment of the show, we do something a little different. And it's called the inspirational moment. It's the inspirational moment. And so I want you right now to go ahead and think about who's listening, a student, a graduate, a professional, maybe even one of your colleagues who are working in the nonprofit space. Would you share a word of encouragement, of inspiration to those who are listening and watching right now to kind of help them navigate their today?
Absolutely, Pastor D. I would like for everyone to lean in with me right now. Lean in with me, with your family. Lean in with me, with your friends, and with your neighbors. Lean in with me because we're living in a time where systems are strained. And our seniors, they're often the ones, they're often the ones that are left behind. We want you to know that there's some scripture in Galatians in 6:9 that tells us that let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we don't give up. We will not give up if we are together. At Mills on Wheels County, we haven't given up because we have you, and we won't because of you. But we can't do it alone. If you're listening today and you're wondering how to make a difference, be the miracle. That's all it is, because it's so easy. And many of us don't believe in miracles or believe that they are still happening. But you are the miracle, and someone's been waiting for you and praying for you. Volunteer and sponsor a senior. You're giving purpose back into a life that lost purpose. And you, by giving back to that life, you have initiated and activated your purpose. Because of you, we can keep showing up. And one meal, one visit, one life at a time because of you. I thank you for leaning in with me today. I thank you for listening. And we're so grateful. But you really are the champions and the heroes. You are the one that will be the difference in this time. And God bless you. And thank you so much for taking the time out to hear us today.
Wow. Wow, wow. Thank you for that powerful, inspirational moment. I don't know about you, but I want to lean in right now. I want to lean in hard, lean in love. And so, again, right now, here it is again. Become a hero of hope. Lean in with Mizella. Lean in with the seniors. Lean in with Ms. Wheels Collin County. Lean in and make a difference. And don't be weary in well doing. This is work well doing, worth doing, and we have got to do it. So go ahead and plug in right now. Become a hero of hope. Be inspired. Live love in a real way. Well, Ms. Z, it's time for us to wind down, but there is a requirement that is required right here at Conversations. We close every session, every conversation where we rock it out. So see, we're gonna have to close strong. So look, we know you gotta rock it out with me. So you gotta be live because we are here at Conscious Conversations where we have discussions that matter. So if you're watching on Spotify, you're not watching, you're listening on Spotify, on Apple, on iHeart. Hey, here it is. You have heard from the CEO, Marcel Tyson of Mills and Wheels Collin County, right here on Conscious Conversations. Go right now to millsandwheelscc.org and go ahead and plug it in. If you're watching, family, and it's time to rock out together. So here we go. We're going to rock this thing out so we can make sure that we have a good time together. Here he is. You gotta rock it out. You gotta rock it out. Here we go. Here we go. All right, family. We've been here for Conscious Conversation. We love you. We appreciate you. And remember to live in love hard, be strong. And remember, intellectuality, our spirit, are interconnected. And we got to live well and be strong. Much love. Be blessed. Peace.
Thank you, Pastor D.